All right, everybody, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. And I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and an upcoming couple of developments that a lot of folks are going to be very excited to hear about. We've got a pretty stacked show today. We're going to talk about the possibility of Jonas Valanciunas coming back on this road trip, potentially in the game tonight. You don't necessarily upgrade somebody to questionable after being out for a prolonged period of time unless you feel pretty confident that they're going to play. Of course, Valanciunas will go through all his checks and whatnot, but I expect him to be back within the next couple of days. We will also discuss the road trip as a whole. We will do a whole bunch of different things, including talking about the Spencer Jones contract situation. I did a short last night for Late Night Nuggets that you should check out that details some of the issues that the Nuggets are facing. I'll expand on that a little bit tonight as well, or today as well. And then we're going to talk about the luxury tax. And I'm going to try to explain to people and not defend the Cronkies. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to put up a shield, but I'm trying to explain why some of these decisions are potentially going to happen and at least tell fans why this is a major concern if the Nuggets are unwilling to do certain things. So we're going to get into it. It's going to be a fun show. Very excited for this one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's get into this upcoming road trip that the Nuggets are going to be playing over the course of these next 4 days. It's another 3 and 4. The January schedule is unrelenting. They are playing against the Washington Wizards tonight. On Thursday, if you're listening to this on the same day, that's in about 5 hours or so. Then they will play tomorrow night against the Milwaukee Bucks on Prime. I do not expect Nikola Jokic to be back for that one, but maybe Jonas Valanciunas is. The Nuggets, of course, beat both of these teams relatively recently, but that was at home. They're now going on the road. They're even more tired now than they were before. And I got to imagine that Giannis and the Bucks especially will be trying to get back at them for a pretty impressive win that the Nuggets had and the ability to kind of hold off the Bucks from winning that game, despite the fact that they didn't have Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Nikola Jokic, Cam Johnson, or Jonas Valanciunas in that game. It was a very, very impressive performance. So those two are on Thursday and Friday, and then they will play versus the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis on Sunday. That is a matinee game. It is actually during the Denver Broncos AFC Championship game. There is a Colorado Avalanche game right before that by a couple of hours. Just another disastrous Denver sports schedule. I can't believe how convoluted it continues to be. But it does seem to me like the town is on fire right now in a good way in terms of all of the sports that are going on and all of the amazing fan bases that and the teams that have been able to and fans that have been able to celebrate their teams. It's been awesome. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like and how much attention the Nuggets get to pay to that. But I will say if Jokic comes back for that game, that'll be a very interesting timing for Mile High Sports specifically as we try to navigate a whole bunch of very interesting dynamics on social media, trying to post about Jokic's return and the Broncos championship at the same time. So it will be fascinating to track, but for each of those 3 games, I would give, like, for the Washington game, I'd probably give them a greater than 50% chance to win that game because they're better than Washington, despite the fact that they have lost to Washington before. Like last year, they lost to them twice. This past game against Washington, that was in Denver, it was a tougher game than you would want it to be. I would still give Denver a greater than 50% chance. Washington is not a good team. They are still figuring some stuff out. Of course, they still don't have Trae Young, but Keyshawn George is a very strong talent. And I don't really like the Valanciunas versus Alex Sarr matchup if the Nuggets do end deciding to start Valanciunas immediately if he does come back. That could be a tough one for Valanciunas. Like he'll be able to muscle Alex Sarr, but Alex Sarr is a little bit stronger than he was before. And it will be interesting to me what the Nuggets decide to do if Sarr is just moving really well and whether he's being an athletic above the rim threat or if he is spacing from behind the arc and doing some things as a jump shooter. He's a really talented player. And so that's a dangerous pick and roll combo. And then you also have to account for all of their guards that can do a lot of different things, all of their wings that can do a lot of different things. So it's going to be a game where I don't think Denver's going to defend very well, but it'll be interesting to track regardless. It wouldn't surprise me for that reason, by the way, if Denver just decides to bring Jonas Valanciunas off the bench in the first game. They'll start Aaron Gordon at the 5. He'll match up with Alex Sarr. Maybe it's Spencer Jones. Maybe they don't touch the starting lineup for this particular one. But we'll see. We will see what they decide to do. I'm curious to see how they handle it. Then they go to Milwaukee. As I mentioned, Milwaukee just they're not in a good spot, obviously. They lost last night to the OKC Thunder, which is, there's no shame in that, obviously, but they were down by 20 immediately and then never really kind of changed anybody's mind about what that scoring outcome would be. Giannis had to start at center because Miles Turner was out. If he starts at center going forward, then obviously another tough matchup for Jonas Valanciunas. And Denver may decide that they would like to go small in that kind of environment as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they reintegrate somebody like a Valanciunas. With Jokic, it's a little bit different because he supersedes any sort of matchup concern with his own individual talent. With Valanciunas coming back, I expect him to be rusty. I expect him to be slow. I expect him to help them on the glass for sure, but probably not going to be able to get up and down on a consistent basis. And you're going to have to reduce his minutes to 15 to 20 minutes per game if you're going to play him that much at all. So it'll be interesting to see how they combat those couple of teams, very athletic and smaller teams, I would say. And then Memphis is obviously in a very interesting place too. They just got back Ja Morant, played him for a couple of games. He was pretty good in the game that they played last night against Atlanta, but they are also a team because they don't have Zach Edey. Jock Landale is coming off the bench for them. They've decided to go smaller in those cases. Maybe they would start Jock Landale if the Nuggets were starting Jonas Valanciunas. But that's another team that's pretty athletic that could be very quick and will be an interesting matchup for Valanciunas specifically. So going to be a tough 3-game road trip. I do not expect Denver to go 3-0. That's for sure. Could they go 2-1? Yeah. And if they do go 2-1, that's a big deal because you've been on the road pretty much the entire season, and finding a way to get that would be great. If you don't end up getting it, then it is what it is. But I do think that Denver, they are at this unfortunate place right now where it just feels like their rotation is stuck. And so getting back somebody like Valanciunas frees up the forwards that have been playing center and Aaron Gordon and even Zeke Naji and Deron Holmes, if he ever plays for Denver at this point in the season again. Or it's Spencer Jones, if you consider him the 5 instead of Aaron Gordon the 4. Those guys could play the 4 or even the 3 in Spencer Jones's case. And Denver could suddenly play a lot bigger and take some pressure off of their guards that have had to do so much rebounding over the course of these last few weeks. Peyton Watson could start at the 2 as opposed to the 3. So Denver, I think, trends bigger in those cases, but it's going to be a drastic change in terms of what they've been doing over the course of these last few weeks. And they've had to really adapt their style and adapt their game. And I wonder what it looks like when they reincorporate a traditional big center into the floor. It's not just going to be perfect. They're going to struggle on the defensive end. They'll feel the need to post up Valanciunas pretty consistently when he's out there. And that's going to take some pressure off of some other guys, but also Valanciunas needs to deliver in that situation. It's a lot of pressure. So I'm curious what it'll ultimately come down to. If you are Murray, it'll be nice to get a really good screener back. If you are Jalen Pickett, like, you're probably going to be setting up Valanciunas and then hoping that he goes to work in a lot of those cases. You're going to be isolating a little bit less, and that's probably a good thing for Denver overall. But it's going to be fascinating to see what they end up doing. Saptash asks, any chance Jokic will return within these 3 games? There's always a chance. There's always a chance with him. I've mentioned this before that in the 4-week time frame that the Nuggets initially gave, that was on December 30th, I want to say, when they ultimately gave that, because he got hurt on December 29th. So 4 weeks is at the end of this stretch. It's not at the beginning. It's not during it. And it's why I kind of expect Jokic to, if he does take the full 4 weeks, to come back during the homestand. They've got 4 games at home next week, basically. So I would kind of expect that to be when he comes back, but you never know. And if he's feeling up to it and the Nuggets really need him and he's good and it's just a pain tolerance thing and he's not in any noticeable pain, then they'll obviously be cautious with him. But overall, like, Jokic gets to make a lot of these decisions. So if he says he feels good, then he'll probably come back and play. I don't expect it on this road trip. I don't think there's a reason to do it unless he's tip-top shape and ready to go. Cam Johnson, a little bit further out than that. Christian Brown is still an unknown given the coming back for 2 or 3 games, not looking right, and then being out for the last 6 to 7 games. It has been a weird saga with Christian, and clearly they're trying to give it extra time to heal, but there also hasn't been any word about when he's actually coming back, if he's coming back in the near future. So there's still a lot of questions about Denver's injury situation, and it's why getting back Valanciunas is a big deal, even if it's a flawed addition, even if this is going to change a lot of things for Denver. It allows them to play in a couple of different ways, and Valanciunas is a good player and somebody that can help, again, remove some of the pressure off of some of the guards, especially Murray and Watson. Now, they'll have to change style of play a little bit, particularly with Peyton. Paint will not be as open as it's been over the course of these last couple of weeks. So curious to see what he looks like. And he's already had some games over the course of these last couple where he's looked a little bit shaky, just driving to the rim and finishing and doing some of the things that he was doing pretty well. But I'm hopeful that he bounces back and that was more of a blip on the radar, and because the Nuggets still need that production, still need that aggressiveness and the volume creation going downhill. Okay, why don't we take a break now? And when we come back, we're going to go a little bit long on this second segment. I have some thoughts. First on the Spencer Jones situation, then we'll do some trade deadline talk and some of the trade deadline goals. And we're also going to talk about the repeater tax. And that is something that not a lot of people have been talking about. I know that my colleague Jeff Morton has been talking about it, but I did not realize how much of an issue it was until I did the math. And I'm about to share some scary numbers with you on the other side here at Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Folks, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. According to FanDuel, Nuggets are currently 5.5-point favorites against the Washington Wizards tonight. That is a more stark line than I kind of expected. Is there a line for Jonas Valanciunas? There is a line for Jonas Valanciunas to score 10 points. Valanciunas is a minus 172. So they're expecting him back, and they're expecting him to play and potentially even start. I'll be very curious to see whether he's able to do so and what that looks like. But I think the momentum is clearly there. The betting markets are clearly factoring it in. So I would expect Valanciunas to be back in a Nuggets uniform tonight, which is cool. That's a good thing. When he went down, it got so scary for Denver from a starting center and depth perspective. So it'll be good to see how it goes. Okay, let's talk about Spencer Jones, who I did, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I did a short for Late Night Nuggets last night that highlighted that Spencer Jones has 7 games left. 7. That's it. There are 7 games left before Spencer Jones becomes ineligible to play for the Nuggets. He has been active for 43 out of the 44 possible games. The Nuggets didn't really expect him to have to be a major player for their group. They expected, like, early on in the season, he was getting a couple DNPs here or there. I think if David Adelman had known just how much they would need Spencer Jones, he probably would have had more DNPs at the beginning of the year and then kind of transitioned into a larger role, because here at the back end, the final game that he's potentially going to be able to play is February 1st versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's if he plays and is active and in all of the next 7 games. So that is a stressful situation for David Adelman, I'm sure, who is probably looking at the Christian Brown situation, who's looking at the Cam Johnson situation, obviously with Jokic and Valanciunas as well. Spencer Jones has had to carry a lot of minutes. Let me actually pull up his basketball reference page right now, because I'm curious how many minutes he has played on average since entering the starting unit, which was relatively early in the season. People don't fully remember this. He has started every single game he has played since Aaron Gordon went down. He was coming off of the bench before then, in his 11th game of the season, team's 11th game of the season or so. He started getting regular rotation time. Well, I guess the 9th game of the season, but that was when there was a whole bunch of guys missing on a back-to-back. But ever since he entered the starting lineup, Spencer Jones is averaging 28 minutes per game. That is a lot of time. It's a truly large amount of time. He's averaging 8 points per game, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal. He's shooting 39% from 3, 68.7% from 2. He's actually shooting a higher percentage from 2 than he is from the free throw line during that stretch. That's a place where he can continue to get better, but he doesn't take that many free throws anyway. But yeah, like 28 minutes per game is a lot of time to miss, especially if you're not getting reinforcements back. Now, eventually Cam Johnson will come back. Eventually Christian Brown will come back. Those guys are going to be a factor. And then you want to make sure you play Peyton Watson enough time. Aaron Gordon's going to deserve time. It becomes crowded more quickly when you have everybody healthy. And then does Spencer Jones go back to playing in that 0 to 15 minute per game role? Probably. That's probably where he's at his best for the Nuggets when they're fully healthy, especially during the regular season. However, that doesn't mean that you can just play him 0 on a consistent basis and not convert his contract. The Nuggets, I think, need him for the playoffs. I think they need his skill set, his physicality, his willingness to play defense. One of the criticisms I think is fair for Peyton so far this year, despite the fact that he has been really good on the offensive end and has taken steps forward in his game, the Nuggets have lost a pure stopper. That was what Peyton Watson was for Denver, and I think that Peyton's regressed a little bit from an offense or from a defensive standpoint against some of those guys because he's had to save so much energy for the offensive end. He's doing a lot of things there. Sometimes he loses focus on the defensive end. He'll miss a rotation on the perimeter, and like guys like Luka Doncic, obviously, it's hard to stop Luka for any player, but I don't think Peyton did a particularly good job there. So, going to be interesting to see whether, like, if Spencer Jones does get converted, he probably becomes their defensive ace, their defensive effort guy, somebody who can add to the glass, who can add to the pressure that you're applying on the opposing team's best forward scorer. It means that Aaron Gordon doesn't have to do that all the time. Peyton Watson doesn't have to do that all the time. Christian Brown, same thing. And so you're going with, like, you would like to have as many options as possible. The problem that the Nuggets are running into is mostly from a financial standpoint. It is not from a desire to convert Spencer Jones. I'm going to put this up on the screen right now so everybody can see. And I reframed the windows here. So I think I did a pretty good job of showing what this is. Obviously, like, this is their multi-year salary cap sheet. If you are listening along, I apologize. I'll do my best to explain. Denver currently has 14 players committed to a roster spot. They have an open 15th roster spot. Spencer Jones, Curtis Jones, and Tamar Bates fill their two-way spots. But because the Nuggets are kind of in that 400,000 range over the luxury tax line, if you can look down in that first column under the 2025-26 season, there's not a lot of room to give Spencer Jones a larger contract and go over and also duck under the luxury tax. And the Nuggets want to duck under the luxury tax. I'll say that. That is something that they want to do. I've been told that specifically, that they would like to get a little bit cheaper and find a way to do so. Well, when you look at the roster and you look at the players that the Nuggets have on the roster, it's really difficult to figure out how to do that unless you can find a way to get somebody to take Zeke Naji into cap space by himself and find an opportunity to move his contract outright. It's going to be difficult for Denver to both add to their roster with Spencer Jones becoming one of the other members and also, like, moving somebody like Zeke in his contract. Like, people have not wanted Zeke Naji's contract in the past, and I understand why, because there's had a whole bunch of years attached to it. This is the second year of a 4-year deal where he's making, it's just $8.1 million. But because the Nuggets have so many other guys that are making a lot of money, like Christian Brown is ineligible to be traded, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, those guys are not getting traded. I don't expect them to duck out from under Jonas Valanciunas' contract for obvious reasons. They want him back. They think he's valuable. So you're looking at, like, Bruce Brown is on a minimum. Tim Hardaway is on a minimum. If you get rid of those guys and sign another minimum deal, that doesn't save you any money. So, like, you look at Julian Strawther, yeah, it would save you $300,000 if you just traded Julian Strawther's contract. So I don't know how they're going to be able to get under the luxury tax for this year, but it does matter to them. They're going to have to try. And so I really think that they're going to be pushing the Zeke Naji trade. Like, or maybe they pair a couple of different guys together and maybe it's Zeke and Julian, or it's Peyton Watson. And you try to recoup some value that way. And, like, one scenario that comes to mind for me is that if a team wanted to take a risk on Peyton Watson, could Denver trade him into somebody else's cap space for a minimum contract player and a first-round pick outright? Like, that's a pretty decent deal from an asset standpoint, but it makes you clearly worse in the short term for a team that wants to win a championship, and potentially in the long term if you would like to retain Peyton Watson and believe that he has some star potential. So I've already gone over that. I don't want to rehash that. But this is the problem that the Nuggets are facing. They don't really have a good way with the way that their roster is structured unless they break up their core. And I don't think they're going to be breaking up their core in order to do this. So this is the issue. This is the financial issue that the Nuggets are facing. Now, rather than just focus on 2025, 26, they'll try to make some trades. There are some, actually, let's look at it from a trade perspective. I've put together 4 hypothetical trades. These are not sourced. These are not reported. I did not spend a lot of time. Like, I got to be honest, I looked more at the second apron and the luxury tax rules for this particular episode, making sure my math was accurate rather than really focusing on the kinds of trades, because it really is a fool's errand to figure out which teams are willing to deal and which teams are not from a financial perspective, because so many of these teams have financial agendas that kind of run counter to their on-court agendas or developmental stories or things like that. There's a lot to figure out there. So without further ado, I'm going to share 4 trade ideas right now on screen. The first one is sending Zeke Naji, Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson, and a 2031 first-round pick swap to the Chicago Bulls for Javon Carter and Dalen Terry. Could you do this for Ayo Dosunmu instead? Maybe. You probably could. You could probably get the Bulls to do that. They like Ayo Dosunmu, obviously. But Javon Carter's had a pretty decent year for them. Dalen Terry is somebody that's more of a depth piece. And if you're Denver, you're doing this for financial reasons. And this really is a salary dump. This is a way to get under the tax. You might, I don't even like, can you even convert Spencer Jones this year and do this particular deal? It's tough. Like, maybe you could, rather than taking in Dalen Terry, if there's another, like, I think Julian Phillips is somebody on the Bulls that might make more sense if you're doing it from a financial perspective. So yeah, like, this is potentially a deal that they could do. You could do Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips instead of Javon Carter and Dalen Terry. But the real reason that you're doing this is the years, is the number of years on the contract left. These would be expiring deals. This would be a way for Denver to get out of the luxury tax in this year and potentially set themselves up for future years in order to try to keep somebody like Peyton Watson on the roster. Next one, Andrew Nembhard for Cam Johnson, straight up. This is a weird one. This is probably not one that anybody would have expected, but Andrew Nembhard is a very good basketball player for the Indiana Pacers. He is also in a situation where when Tyrese Halliburton comes back, and if they want to retain Benedict Mathurin, if they have interest in playing Ben Shepherd at more of a shooting guard role as opposed to a small forward role, and if they draft somebody like Darren Peterson, who looks amazing at Kansas right now, Indiana's in line to get the number 1 overall pick. What if they get it? And what if they want to draft Darren Peterson? Like, do they want to kind of shift around their roster a little bit and would like a starting small forward instead of a starting 2 guard or like a 1.5? And so this is a financial move for Denver as well. Denver saves on the tax. They add a combo guard. It places Peyton Watson in the starting lineup going forward and brings Andrew Nembhard off the bench, who kind of replaces the Bruce Brown role at maybe a higher level for what the Nuggets have needed. And this gets Denver to be a better defensive team, I would expect. It gives them another trusted ball handler, somebody that they could potentially put the ball in his hands with the bench and find some things. I don't know if Indiana even considers doing this at this point. It wouldn't shock me if they're like, no, screw you. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't even think the Nuggets would be super serious about considering this because they traded for Cam Johnson on purpose. They believe in him, and I completely understand it. There's a possibility that Peyton Watson regresses back to a closer to where he was in November and December than what he has been in January. And if that's the case, it would be really nice to have Cam Johnson as a guy that can help out Jokic, Murray, and Gordon. So it's going to be interesting. Like, this is just an idea. Again, this is not me endorsing an idea. This is just talking about some of the issues. The other thing, a hidden factor here is that Cam Johnson's contract, I know it says 21 million, but if you look really close, it says 3.5 million in unlikely incentives. Those count towards the tax bill. And it's a way for Denver. You wouldn't just save 3 million between the 21 versus 18 million that Andrew Nemhard makes. You'd be saving 6.5 million for the unlikely incentives. So something to be said for that. Another deal, weird one. Herbert Jones coming to Denver for Zeke Naji, Peyton Watson, and Hunter Tyson straight up. This is a tough one. If you're Denver, you're going to have to figure out how to fill out the rest of your roster. You would be left with 12 total players, and you would be in a situation where Peyton Watson is being replaced by Herb Jones, which, if you said before the season, you'd probably be pretty happy as a Nuggets fan. But given what Peyton Watson has done over the course of the last month, Herbert Jones kind of sounds like a little bit of a downgrade. The curious thing about Herbert Jones with his contract is that he has a 3-year extension, but it's not starting next year. It's starting the year after. So Denver could kick the can down the road a little bit. Herbert Jones is making closer to 14 million in 2026-27, which is far less than the 22 million that I had projected for Peyton Watson if they were to give him a 4-year, $100 million extension. In addition, you get off of Zeke Naji's money. So this is a financially saving move, but you're also adding a player that you feel like is really good and really helpful and could potentially be a stopper for the Nuggets in their starting lineup. You could have, you could even put Christian Brown on the bench if you wanted to and put Jamal Murray next to Herb Jones, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. And then if Christian Brown come off the bench, or you could flip-flop those guys or reorient them the way that you want to. But this is an interesting one. This is one where I think Denver and the Pelicans could potentially justify it. Finally, Keon Ellis for Julian Strawther and a 2032 for second-round pick. This is one where the Kings look forward. They kick the can down the road. They take a flyer on Julian Strawther. They get a future asset. If they aren't going to bring back Keon Ellis, then this is one where Denver, I think, would be willing to do so. Denver would be getting Keon Ellis as a mercenary option as opposed to somebody that they retain going forward. They're going to have to find more opportunities there, but this gets Denver closer to being under the tax. But if you look there, it says $29K, like they'd be $29,000 away from being under the tax. So I'm not sure if like from a financial standpoint, Denver would obviously consider this and they want to go even further, but you're probably not converting Spencer Jones in this situation. You're probably just adding Keon Ellis to the mix as a guard that you can trust. He's a defensive guy. He's a floor spacer. He's somebody that you could realistically add to the rotation and feel pretty good, especially if Christian Brown is a little bit injured still and you're having some concerns about that. Keon Ellis would help this Nuggets team for sure. The question would be, like, could the Kings even justify this? Would they be happy with this kind of move? Probably not. I wouldn't be happy if I were them. I wouldn't be happy if I were a fan of them. And so you look at this, you think, okay, could you justify this if you're the Kings? Probably not. You would probably need a first-round pick swap from the Nuggets at the very minimum in order to do it. But you could take a flyer on Julian Strawther going forward, a young guy who, like, after all the moves that you probably are going to have to make eventually from a Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan standpoint, not sure if Sabonis is going to be back, not sure what the rest of their rotation is going to look like. Could Julian Strawther be somebody that helps them down the line? Maybe. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what Denver's able to do. But as I mentioned, one of the main things I wanted to talk about in this particular show, Cody actually asks, or he says, Morris pitch day, Lonzo Ball for Strawther trade, ball in ball arena. I would guess that would include Zeke Naji, of course, because Lonzo makes about $10 million. So Zeke Naji and Julian Strawther for Lonzo Ball. Yeah, shocker that that Adam would want that move. And I understand it. I get it. Like Lonzo would be very helpful for this Nuggets team and somebody that is a connector, somebody that could potentially do the Jalen Pickett role at a slightly higher level, even. So will be very interesting to see what happens. Hey, we got a super chat. Super chat coming in from ABC Dino. Says, unrelated, I am on a mission to improve Jokic's pronunciation across Nuggets channel. It's like Nicholas, but without the S sound at the end. Nicola. Okay. I mean, I've been called out by this, like for this over the course of these last couple of months. It feels like everybody has their own sort of opinion on how Nicola Nicola says his name. And I have screwed it up every which way because I try my best to cater to what other people think or know is the correct pronunciation. Nicola actually questioned and basically said, "Oh yeah, no, this it's said this way." And then later in his career, like within the last couple of years or so, said, "Oh no, it's actually different." And that was from Nikola Vucevic. So it's tough, man. Like I do my best. I'm just a farm boy from Denver, Colorado. I'm so uncultured, but I appreciate the super chat. So thank you for the help as always. Okay. Final thing here. I have notes on this. I'm not going to share them with you, but I'll keep the salary cap sheet up. The luxury tax rules is something that a lot of fans like to ignore, and for good reason. It's all about money. It is all about how much you are paying to field a team. If you are a team that has championship aspirations, you would expect or hope that your owner would be willing and able to pay what it takes to win a title. And so I want to first and foremost give the Nuggets ownership a reasonable amount of credit. They have been in the luxury tax each of the past 3 seasons. In 2022-23 when they won the championship, 2023-24, and 2024-25 last year. They have been in the tax. They're currently $400K over the tax. They want to duck it. They want to get out of it. And when I tell you why, you will understand even if you don't agree. The new CBA put more stringent rules on the tax, on the luxury tax brackets specifically. Basically, what that means is that for every certain number of dollars that you are over the tax for this CBA, it is every 3% over the tax that you are. Your payment gets placed into brackets. And so if you're 3% over, then you pay the first bracket. If you are 4% over, you pay you pay that first bracket at that level, that first 3%, and then the additional 1% over the tax you pay it at the second level, which is higher. For example, if a team is 2% over for next year's luxury tax line, which is about $201 million, if they are not a repeater tax team, that team will pay an additional $1.25 for every $1 they have and are over that 201. So a $203 million salary would become a $205.9 million payment. So you're paying an additional $2.5 million because you are $2 million over. Okay, that's a pretty small number because you're not in the repeater at that point and it's in the first bracket. If the same team was in the repeater tax, a $203 million salary becomes a $209 million cost, which is an additional $3.5 million. You would pay $3 for every $1 you are over. That is different. And the brackets get way worse. Let me tell you, they get way worse. The rules state that because the Nuggets are in the repeater tax for each of the last 3 seasons, they are a repeater team this year and next year, guaranteed, because they have been a tax team. Like they are worried about this repeater tax. They do not want to pay a significant amount. They want to duck the tax this year, I think, knowing they're going to have to pay the tax next year and they're going to be a repeater team, but they want to do it without like reckless abandon. They are not the LA Clippers. They are not the Golden State Warriors. They're not going to pay these crooked tax bills. The Boston Celtics, even when Jason Tatum went down, they're like, no, we are ducking. We are getting away from this thing. They were in line to pay like $500 million for a salary that was like for a team that you didn't expect to be that great. Overall, they've been way better than I think people expected, but they got out of it. And that's the Celtics, who have a whole bunch of money. But the rules state that, like, even if they duck the tax this year, next year they're going to get really expensive really quickly. So I have Peyton Watson getting projected as a 4-year, $100 million deal at $22.196 million in the first season of that. Let's say Jalen Pickett opts in and gets the team option picked up. Let's say Hunter Tyson gets the team option picked up. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But like, those are about minimum contract numbers anyway for the NBA. So even if Denver replaces them with minimum contract guys, it's not that different. Right now, without Spencer Jones factoring in, Tim Hardaway, Bruce Brown are free agents. Denver has 12 players committed to the 2026-27 season, and they are $37 million over the luxury tax line with this projection. Now, they can reduce that. They can pay Peyton Watson less money. They can pay Jonas Valanciunas $0 because he's on a non-guaranteed deal until July 7th or July 8th, one of those days. So they'll probably find ways to get lower than this number. But in order to field the best team possible, like, Denver should try to keep all of those guys. They should try to add to that roster. They should like try to bring in a couple of other free agents. And then this goes from about 37. Like, if you're paying 3 additional minimum contract guys, or Spencer Jones, for example, you're paying $243 million, $245 million, somewhere in that general range. Yeah, TJ, I think it's a team option. It's either that or a non-guaranteed contract. It's one of the two. They can get out of it, but like for Valanciunas. So that's honestly 100% what's going to happen. Denver's financials are crippling. But because the Nuggets have paid the luxury tax, they are in the repeater tax. They are not getting out of this no matter what. So if they have the number I put down was $238 million. If they have $238 million committed to just 12 players, they're $37 million over the tax, and they are into the not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. They are into the 7th tax bracket. And so listen to these rates. If you're in bracket 1, you pay $3 for every dollar. If you're in bracket 2, it's $3.25. If you're in bracket 3, it's $5.50, 5.5 times. And that's bracket 3. Bracket 4 is $6.75 for every dollar that you are over. Bracket 5, $7.25. Bracket 6, $7.75. Bracket 7, where Denver would be, $8.25 for every dollar they are over. So I am not here to make excuses for the Cronkies. I'm not. They have a lot of money, But you can understand why they would rather pay less dollars in luxury tax than more. You can understand. I get it. I do. Like, this is a lot of money. Now, here's the actual math. So how much money would it cost for Denver to just field this group if they paid $238 million for 12 players? Now, they might shift the thing, obviously, but let's just use this as an example. They would pay $210.87 million in luxury tax, over $200 million in luxury tax, on top of the $238 million that they are fielding for 12 players, for a grand total, folks, of $448.87 million. You want to tell You guys can tell the Nuggets and Nuggets ownership to pay that. You can yell it from the rooftops. You can tell them that they should, that it's the right thing to do. That if you want to be the most competitive team possible, then you should pay as much as it takes. Be my guest. Like, they won't listen to you. They do not care. They are not going to, like, they want to field the best team. They want to win titles, especially Josh Kroenke. Stan Kroenke is like, he likes winning, but he wants to do it on his own terms. Josh is like, he's going to go all out. Like, he's going to try. But you can understand why there is financial pressure internally to reduce the salary, to reduce the luxury tax bill, to get out of the repeater tax, so that the Nuggets, like, even if they have to pay a large payment and they go 18 million over or 19 million over or something like that, even if they have to do that, like, they can still, like, figure some stuff out. But, like, this is why Peyton Watson is probably not going to be a Nugget going forward, or Cam Johnson is not going to be a Nugget going forward, or they decide to trade Christian Brown preemptively, but that's very unlikely, or they decide to trade Aaron Gordon. Regardless, like, you can't move Jokic, you can't move Murray, but there is a lot of pressure coming down the pipeline for next season about Denver's financial situation. And this is something that, it's why you take advantage of the years leading up to the repeater tax being an absolute pain in the ass. It's why you prevent it, it's why you kick the can down the road as long as possible. Because once this clock starts ticking and once Denver's paying these crazy numbers, I don't think the Nuggets are going to pay $440 million to field a basketball team. I don't think they're going to do it. And I don't blame them for that. You as a fan have every right to blame them, and I don't blame you. But, like, I understand why it's happening. So, with that in mind, the Nuggets need to find creative ways to reduce this bill. They might have to let go of some guys. They might have to pay some extra picks in order to make it happen. They don't have a lot of salary and draft picks to just shed in a very effective way that other teams are going to be wanting to have. Like, Denver's kind of stuck here. So this is the group. It's going to be very interesting. And then they're going to have to cut from the group and probably not going to be able to add. So you have to win this year. You have to find a way. You have to stay healthy. You have to be patient, because things get so much more complicated next year and then going forward if Denver is still in the repeater tax. So I understand why they're trying to do this. I understand why they're trying to get out of the luxury bill. It's going to be very interesting to see. Okay. Everybody, I hope that was informative. I hope that was useful information. I don't like it any more than you do, but I think it's very valuable to be informed and to understand why certain things are about to happen, why certain things may happen, just so you know what's going on and you know why, like, Denver may or may not do certain things. So we'll see what happens. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will not be back tomorrow. I am going to take the day. I'll do some stuff on Locked On, but there's, with the back-to-back situation, I will be at number 38 on Saturday. By the way, if you are here, if you are listening, if you want a place to go for the Broncos game on Thursday, we are doing a watch party in number 38. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can go check out the Mile High Sports studio, built within a shipping container and decked out in a whole bunch of cool stuff. I don't think I'll be there for that one, but I will be there on February 1st. We're doing back-to-back watch parties on January 31st and February 31st. Or, Jesus, January 31st and February 1st, with an Avalanche party and a Nuggets watch party. And I will be there when the Nuggets face the Oklahoma City. Actually, oh no, I won't be there for that one. That is a home game. But I'll try to be there for the Avalanche game that on that one. That'll be great. So make sure to go check it out at number 38. Lots of good stuff, lots of good food, like really good food, and some fun drinks as well. All right, everybody, have a good one. Really appreciate the love and support on the podcast. As always, hit that like button and subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys very soon.